Captain Jack Novak stared at the alien delegation with what he hoped was a diplomatic smile and not the grimace it felt like. The Vrol representatives towered over the human contingent, their iridescent scales shifting colors with each labored breath in Earth's oxygen-rich atmosphere. "Let me get this straight," Jack said, tapping his finger against the translucent conference table. "You're saying that you own this entire sector because your great-great-grandsquid once swam through it?" The lead Vrol diplomat, who had introduced himself as High Commander Drez, flared his neck frills in what the briefing suggested was amusement. "Your understanding of galactic property law is as primitive as your spacecraft, Captain. Our claim extends back 17 generations. The Vrol Empire doesn't recognize squatters' rights." Jack's second officer, Lieutenant Ellie Rivera, leaned forward. "With all due respect, High Commander, humans have been terraforming the outer planets of this system for nearly 40 years. Our colony on Proxima B houses over 12,000 civilians." The Vrol delegation exchanged clicks and whistles that the translator couldn't, or wouldn't, process. Jack had been in enough tense negotiations to recognize mockery when he heard it, regardless of species. "Perhaps we should take a short recess," Jack suggested, feeling the familiar knot of tension forming between his shoulder blades. "Give everyone a chance to consider compromises." "There is nothing to compromise," Drez replied, his voice modulator producing a tone of utter boredom. "Your colonies will be relocated. The Vrol are being generous in offering transportation rather than simply eliminating the problem." Ellie stood up, her patience visibly fraying. "That problem involves thousands of human lives." What happened next occurred so quickly that Jack would later have to review the meeting's recording 3 times to process it. High Commander Drez flicked one elongated finger, and a needle-thin energy beam shot across the table, striking Ellie directly through her sternum. She didn't even have time to look surprised before collapsing. The room froze. Jack's training kicked in as he dropped to check Ellie's pulse, but he knew before his fingers touched her neck. The smell of ionized tissue told him everything he needed to know. Lieutenant Rivera was becoming tiresome, Drez said with the casual air of someone who had swatted an insect. "Shall we continue our discussion about relocation timelines?" Jack slowly rose to his feet, fighting every instinct screaming at him to draw his sidearm. "This meeting is over." "Because of that?" Drez gestured dismissively at Ellie's body. "Your species breeds quickly enough. Surely one less female doesn't impact our negotiations." Jack's first officer, Commander Tomas Way, had the presence of mind to step between his captain and the alien delegation. "We'll be returning to our ship now. Further communication will be through established channels." The Vrol seemed genuinely perplexed by the humans' reaction. As Jack's team gathered Ellie's body, Drez called after them, "We've allocated 3 of your Earth months for evacuation. After that, we begin resource extraction whether your colonies have relocated or not." Back aboard the Audacity, Jack paced the bridge like a caged animal. "They killed her, Tomas. Just ended her because she was annoying them." "I know, sir." Tomas stood at parade rest, his own rage carefully contained. "The question is, what do we do now?" Jack stopped at the viewport, staring at the massive Vrol mothership that dwarfed their own vessel. "We go home. We tell Earth exactly what happened. And then?" "And then, sir." Jack turned, his face hardened into something his crew had never seen before. "And then we teach them that humans are the wrong species to underestimate." The return journey to Earth took 11 days at maximum burn. Jack spent most of it drafting and redrafting his report, stripping away the emotion until only the cold, hard facts remained. Ellie's body lay in stasis, her family still unaware that their daughter, sister, and fiancé wouldn't be coming home with stories of first contact. When they arrived, the Audacity was met with none of the fanfare that had seen them off. Instead, a single shuttle delivered Admiral Helena Wells to their docking bay. Helena was a legend in the Space Force, a tactical genius with a reputation for being coldly practical. She'd been Jack's mentor at the Academy, and the only person who'd ever beaten him at 3-dimensional chess. "Jack. She embraced him briefly. I've read your preliminary report. The council is meeting in emergency session. And? Jack searched her face for some hint of Earth's response. And they're going to debate whether appeasement might be the wisest course. Helena's disgust was evident. The Vrol's technology appears centuries beyond ours. Some believe we should accept their terms rather than risk further confrontation. Jack felt like he'd been punched. They executed a diplomatic officer during peaceful negotiations. If we roll over now. I know. Helena cut him off with a sharp gesture. That's why I've already initiated protocol consequence. Jack blinked. I'm not familiar with that protocol. Helena's smile was thin and dangerous. It's not in any public manual. Walk with me. She led him through the space station's restricted sections, eventually arriving at a blast door marked only with a simple Omega symbol. After a retinal scan, the door slid open to reveal a command center humming with activity. Welcome to Omega Division, Helena said quietly. Earth's insurance policy. Jack stared at the holographic displays showing vessels he'd never seen before, sleek, predatory ships that looked nothing like the bulky exploration and colonization craft of Earth's official fleet. What am I looking at? The real Space Force. Helena gestured to a central display showing a massive ship unlike anything Jack had encountered. While you've been out making friends, we've been preparing for enemies. All this was hidden. Even from exploration captains. Especially from exploration captains. Your job was to be exactly what you are, honest representatives of humanity's better nature. Helena's eyes hardened. Our job is to be what happens when that better nature is abused. Over the next hours, Jack learned the truth about Earth's defensive capabilities. For every public research breakthrough, 3 military applications had been developed in secret. For every diplomatic mission, a combat scenario had been gamed out. Earth had been preparing for the worst while hoping for the best. The Council will debate for days, Helena explained as they reviewed tactical simulations. By the time they reach a decision, our response fleet will already be assembled and ready to launch. You're going to attack without authorization. Jack couldn't hide his shock. I'm going to defend Earth's interests and people using pre-approved contingency protocols. Helena corrected. The Council authorized protocol consequence 15 years ago for precisely this kind of situation. They just don't remember the details. Jack found himself both horrified and impressed. And if they explicitly order you to stand down? Then I'll comply. Helena shrugged. But they won't. Not once Lieutenant Rivera's family testifies. Not when the public sees the recording of her murder. Jack recognized the cold calculation in Helena's planning. You're going to use Ellie's death to sway public opinion. I'm going to use the truth, Jack. The Vrol killed her because they don't value human life. That fact needs to be faced, not buried in diplomatic niceties. 3 days later, after Ellie's funeral was broadcast globally and the unedited meeting footage leaked to every news outlet, the Council's debate was rendered moot by overwhelming public demand for action. Protocol consequence received full authorization. Jack found himself appointed as second-in-command of the response fleet, serving directly under Admiral Wells. The fleet gathered at the edge of the solar system, 50 vessels of Earth's secret armada, armed with weapons technologies that had never been field-tested against alien defenses. The Vrol believe they've given us an ultimatum, Helena addressed the assembled ship captains through the secure quantum network. They think we're scrambling to evacuate our colonies while they prepare to strip mine worlds where human children were born. They killed a human and thought it was over. She paused, and Jack could feel the weight of what was coming next. It's time to show them that humans neither forgive nor forget. We launch in 6 hours. Prepare your crews. As Jack returned to his temporary command on the warship Retribution, he thought about Ellie's easy laugh and brilliant tactical mind. He thought about the casual way Drez had ended her promising life. You should have just been polite, he murmured to the stars where the Vrol waited, unaware of what was coming. It would have cost you nothing. The fleet jumped to FTL as one, accelerating toward a confrontation that would redefine humanity's place in the galaxy. High Commander Drez lounged on his command platform, idly scrolling through reports of newly surveyed planets in the sector. The relocation notice to the human colonies had been transmitted weeks ago, and preparations for resource extraction were well underway. The humans had gone suspiciously quiet since that trivial diplomatic incident, but Vrol intelligence suggested they were indeed evacuating their settlements. Primitives always recognize superior force eventually, Drez remarked to his second-in-command, Krex. Though I expected more futile protests from them. Krex's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue-green. The data we've gathered suggests humans are unpredictable. Perhaps we should maintain elevated alert status until the extraction begins. Drez made a dismissive gesture with his upper limbs. Their technology is barely past rudimentary spaceflight. Their weapons are laughable. What could they possibly? The sensor officer interrupted with an urgent series of clicks. Commander. Multiple FTL signatures detected approaching the system. Impossible, Drez said, rising from his lounging position. Our intelligence confirmed the humans have no fleet of significant size. The main view screen activated, showing a formation of ships unlike the clumsy, boxy vessels they'd seen before. These were sleek, predatory, and moving with a precision that spoke of extensive military training. 53 vessels, the sensor officer reported, voice modulator unable to fully mask his alarm. Configuration unknown. Weapon systems, also unknown, but energy reading suggests significant offensive capability. Drez felt the first flicker of unease. Hail them. Instead of responding to the hail, the human fleet split into 3 battle groups with practiced efficiency, moving to surround the Vrol defense perimeter. Then a transmission cut through all Vrol communication channels simultaneously, broadcasting not just to the military vessels but to every Vrol ship, station, and colony in the system. Admiral Helena Wells appeared on screen, her gray-streaked hair pulled back severely, her expression giving nothing away. This is Admiral Helena Wells of Earth's Response Fleet. 3 weeks ago, your High Commander Drez executed Lieutenant Ellie Rivera during a diplomatic meeting. He then threatened our colonies with destruction. He believed this would compel our cooperation. She paused, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably. He was mistaken. Drez bristled at the human's tone. This is outrageous. Your primitive species has no standing to. Helena continued as if he hadn't spoken. Humanity has a long history of warfare, High Commander. We've spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing each other. When we ventured to the stars, we hoped to leave that history behind. Your actions have made that impossible. The view screen split to show tactical displays of the human fleet deploying around key Vrol military installations. You killed a human and thought it was over, Helena said. Today, you learn that humans neither forgive nor forget. The transmission cut. Seconds later, the first human strike hit the Vrol defense grid. The battle that followed would later be studied in military academies across the galaxy. The humans didn't just attack, they dismantled the Vrol defenses with surgical precision. Weapon systems failed. Communication arrays went dark. Engines cut out mid-maneuver. On board the Retribution, Jack Novak watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. The electromagnetic pulse warheads are working exactly as designed, his tactical officer reported. Vrol ships are losing power systems sequentially, just as the simulations predicted. Jack nodded. And the civilian evacuation? Complete, sir. All non-military Vrol have been herded to the designated safe zones. No civilian casualties reported. That had been Jack's one condition for participating in Protocol Consequence, no innocent Vrol would die for their leader's arrogance. Helena had agreed, not from moral considerations but practical ones. Dead martyrs create eternal enemies, she'd said. Humiliated survivors create cautionary tales. The Vrol capital ship, where Drez commanded, had been left deliberately untouched while the rest of the fleet was systematically disabled. Now, as the last Vrol destroyer drifted powerless, the Retribution moved into position alongside the Admiral's flagship. "Ready for boarding, Captain," Tomas reported. Jack checked his sidearm, not the ceremonial one he'd worn to the diplomatic meeting, but a combat model designed specifically for the Vrol physiology. "Let's go meet our old friend." The boarding party cut through the Vrol ship's defenses with ease. Their intelligence had been thorough, every security measure encountered was already accounted for in their planning. The Vrol crew they encountered were quickly subdued with targeted neural disruptors that left them conscious but paralyzed. When they reached the command center, High Commander Drez was trying desperately to rally his forces through emergency channels. He spun around as the doors slid open, his scales flashing crimson with rage. "How dare you invade a sovereign Vrol vessel? This is an act of war." Jack stepped forward, removing his helmet. "War? No, High Commander. This is a response. You started this when you killed my officer." Recognition flickered in Drez's compound eyes. "The diplomatic captain. You've come seeking vengeance for one insignificant life?" "No," Jack said quietly. "I've come to deliver a message." Admiral Wells entered behind him, flanked by her security team. She surveyed the command center with clinical detachment before focusing on Drez. "Your empire has existed for millennia," she said. "In that time, you've encountered hundreds of species. Some you conquered. Some you traded with. Some you ignored. But humanity doesn't fit into your existing categories." She gestured, and one of her officers activated a holographic projection in the center of the room. It showed the Vrol homeworld, surrounded by a web of satellites. "These are now in orbit around your planet," Helena continued. "They're quantum-locked monitoring stations. They cannot be disabled without destroying your atmosphere in the process." Drez's frills drooped in shock. "You would hold our entire species hostage?" "No," Helena corrected. "We're establishing consequences. The monitoring network will alert Earth if the Vrol ever kill another human without due process. If that happens, the response will make today look like a friendly greeting." Jack stepped closer to Drez, close enough to smell the alien's fear pheromones. "You thought we were weak because we value life, even alien life. That wasn't weakness, High Commander. It was restraint. What do you want?" Drez asked, his arrogance finally cracking. "Three things," Helena answered. "First, the Vrol Empire will acknowledge human sovereignty over all our current colonies and an expansion zone extending 5 light-years from each settlement. Second," Jack continued, "you will establish formal diplomatic protocols that recognize the sanctity of all sentient life during negotiations." "And third?" Drez asked bitterly. Helena's smile was cold. "You will tell your people what happened here. Not as propaganda, but as history. As a lesson about misjudging a species based on their apparent gentleness." In the days that followed, the human fleet systematically disabled the Vrol military infrastructure throughout the sector. True to their word, they caused no civilian casualties, but they left the mighty Vrol Empire effectively defanged within their sphere of influence. When the last human ship prepared to depart, Jack requested permission to deliver a final message to the Vrol Leadership Council that had been hastily assembled to ratify the new treaty. "You have our attention, Captain Novak," the Vrol Prime Counselor said stiffly. Jack looked around the chamber at the assembled Vrol leaders, their once proud postures now hesitant and wary. "In human history, we have a concept called proportional response," he began. "We could have destroyed your homeworld for what you did. Some of us wanted to. But that's not who we choose to be." He paused, letting his gaze rest on each counselor in turn. "Lieutenant Ellie Rivera believed in peaceful coexistence between our species. She was killed for speaking up. Today, we've honored her memory not by seeking revenge, but by ensuring her death wasn't meaningless." Jack turned to leave, then stopped at the chamber door. "One more thing. The next time you meet humans in peace, try saying, please, and thank you. You'd be amazed how far good manners can get you in this galaxy. 6 months later, Jax sat with Helena at a memorial service for Ellie on the colony world the Vrol had threatened to evacuate. A garden of Earth flowers surrounded a simple stone marker, while settlers and Space Force personnel gathered to pay their respects. The Vrol have been model treaty partners, Helena remarked, swirling a glass of colony-brewed whiskey. Their diplomatic corps has apparently undergone extensive retraining. Jack nodded. Amazing what a little perspective can accomplish. You know, Helena said thoughtfully, 3 other species have reached out to establish diplomatic relations since word of the Vrol incident spread. Apparently, we've developed quite the reputation. As what? The crazy species you don't want to mess with? Helena chuckled. Something like that. The Andromedan ambassador called us, politely terrifying. Jack raised his glass toward Ellie's memorial. To being politely terrifying, then. And to those who remind us why it matters, Helena added softly. Around them, the colony bustled with activity, human children playing, businesses thriving, life continuing without fear of arbitrary destruction. The night sky above was speckled with stars, and somewhere out there, the Vrol were telling their younglings about the day they learned that humans neither forgive nor forget, especially when you forget your manners.